This is the Amy Edwards Show.
I used to do overwhelm really, really well, right? And overwhelm is basically just thinking of all the things with a special emphasis on those things that are not within your control. So the most important step, the O in overwhelm, is to only focus on what's within your control. And you can start that with a brain dump. I do that whenever I need it, but at least once a month, where you get a huge big A3 sheet of paper and all of that stuff that is swimming around in your head, you just dump it down on paper. It looks so much less than what it felt like when it's in your head, right? And then you just cross out everything that is not within your control that's on that piece of paper. And everything that is within your control, some of those items you're still going to want to ditch. Some of those items you're going to want to delegate. And then the others are do, and you choose the one next most important do. And the solution to overwhelm, really, apart from focusing on what is within your control, is to take that next one most aligned action.
Hello, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Amy Edwards, and today we are with Kate Galli, all the way from Australia. I'm dying to go to Australia. So one of these days, although it's winter now, so I'm definitely going to go when it's winter here. Kate is a health coach, an author, and the host of the Healthification Podcast, which has clocked over 900 episodes. That is so impressive, Kate. With 19 years of experience in personal training and coaching and a background in NLP and plant-based nutrition, Kate helps vegans and the plant-curious create a strong, fit, confident lifestyle that aligns with their values. After losing her mother unexpectedly, she underwent a huge shift from anger and grief to leading with compassion and heart. Her story and her work are all about turning loss into love and aligning values with action and living consciously with purpose. And Kate, I relate to so much about you already because I have lived as a vegan off and on for many years of my life, and I love that lifestyle, and I've also lost my mother. And so I'm not sure where you like to begin with people, but I'd just like to ask you, where do you like to start when you are introducing yourself?
I first want to say thank you so much. I'm excited to have this conversation with you, Amy. And I start in all different places, but I guess some people can have apprehension surrounding the V word, vegan. You've been there and back, and I guess I often start with, I was that typical little girl who loved animals and ate animals until at 16 I learnt what needed to happen to eat those animals, and I became vegetarian actually first overnight. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Nearly everyone loves animals, right? And I became a personal trainer I thought I was getting too old. I became a personal trainer at the ripe old age of 29 before I got too old. And I'm guessing some people relate as well to my early days obsession with the gym. It was actually a means by which to transform both my body but also my confidence, because I was a debilitatingly shy teenager. So shy teenager, child that loved animals, all of that led gradually to the vegan health coach, which is where I am now. However, we can jump further into whatever resonates with you, Amy.
Well, I like talking about that first because it resonates with me a lot because veganism has really gotten a bad rap, I feel like, in the last, I don't know. I feel
Always?
like maybe always, yeah. But I feel like really particularly in the last 5 or 6 years, at least here. If I told people I was, they were like surprised. The protein movement is overtaking us. And so I wanted to just ask you a little bit about how you navigate that with people when they're like, well, how do you get enough protein and all these kind of things? So it's been a journey for me. And so I wanted to kind of ask you about that.
Yeah. First I want to say I relate to almost leading to that bad rap that veganism gets, right? Because early days I was that extreme animal rights activist, angry vegan, very vocal, wore my vegan muscle killing workouts, not animals, singlet to the gym every single day. I was very loud and proud, and I'm still loud and proud, but just in a way that I hope is more effective, right? And when I became vegan 9.5 years ago, I'd been vegetarian for 23 years at that point in time. I was working in a very gym bro type of a gym, and I was already the weird one for being vegetarian. But I was fit and strong and had that confident body and could lift the weights and never got sick. And I remember rocking into the gym the day after I decided I was going vegan. I'd watched the documentary Cowspiracy. I'd understood that if I was vegetarian for the animals, actually I needed to be vegan for the animals. And I announced, hey boys, I'm going vegan. And I remember one of the other trainers said, well, goodbye lean muscle mass then. And I actually thought he might have had a point. I thought that, maybe there's a chance I'll lose some muscle, I'll gain some fat, heaven forbid, I'll lose some strength. I was apprehensive. However, I did know that it was about more than just my vanity. It was about more than that body I'd sculpted in the gym for 2 decades at that point in time. It was about doing what aligned with my heart and my values and my beliefs. And I got overly diligent, probably, Amy. I made it so much more complicated than I needed to because I had a point to prove. I knew if I got this wrong, it would make the lifestyle look bad. And so I hit every single macro, like the protein for sure, also every single micronutrient goal in every single meal. And it was really hard work.
Impressive.
It was really it was hard work and not so delicious as what it is nowadays, right?
I bet.
So yeah, I made those mistakes early days.
Wow. Well, I was kind of back and forth. I just had a soft heart to animals, and then I read Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer, and I was like, I'm done here. Like it just was so moving. And it's been interesting to see his journey. I don't know if you followed him, but he wrote another book, We Are the Weather. And he kind of came clean about how he was doing a shitty job as a vegan, basically. And he wasn't walking the walk of his talk. And so I can understand that you felt like you had to really be diligent, especially when you were training people and telling people what you're doing, right? I've had to get a lot more flexible with myself. I live in Texas. I live with a heavyweight former fighter. He eats everything. So I've just had to adopt it, like what works for me. And the interesting part for me has been when I focus on plants, I just feel better. Like green leafy stuff. And like I just feel like we have this weird movement away from that. And I think that, yes, it's about animals, but it's also about like really tapping into what our bodies need, right?
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, you mentioned, Amy, that there's been more, I guess, angst or polarization surrounding the word vegan in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the more popular the movement became and the more research to support the health benefits there came, then the more outspoken vegans were, the more in every aspect of success you could find healthy, fit, strong, happy vegans, the more pushback there had to be from the other side, which is coming from fear. There's a lot of money to be made in animal products, a lot of subsidies, and so the pushback comes from fear. And to a degree, that's really understandable.
Mm-hmm. Why?
So first off, I'm going to say the money side of things. I mean, everything food is money, right? And I mean, that is one of the huge reasons I was angry early days vegan, because in society, we've decided that some animals are friends and some animals are products to be profited from. That's all they are. And that made me really, really angry, especially the animals that I was still contributing to their suffering as a vegetarian. I ate up to 21 free-range organic egg whites a day as a vegetarian, and I didn't know. 100. I was completely not balanced. I looked healthy on the outside, but the nutrition I was taking on board was actually really restrictive, not that fun. Certainly not the diverse range of plants that I eat now. However, back to the fear, because I think about this all the time. You mentioned it as well, early days. It's easy to fit in, to follow status quo, to not be the one standing outside of the crowd, to not be that difficult, vocal one. No one wants to be the odd one out.
Yeah.
I'm kind of okay with it, but I'm really weird. I don't know why I've got that okay being the odd one out gene, But there's fear surrounding, my goodness, what if there's some truth to this, whether it's the environmental impact, the cruelty and exploitation, the health impact, whatever it is. What if there's some fear and it means that I have to change my actions every single day at every single meal? That is a huge overhaul for so many people. And equally for so many people, the way that we share love and connection, the way that we bond with other people is through food and through the tradition of all those animal products that we grew up with.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, you're totally right. It really is. And that's one of the tough things. That's been hard for me cutting out alcohol too, because that's the way that we relate. And you just sort of have to go, well, this doesn't work for me. And I can step out of my comfort zone and just make it work if I'm committed to it. So how did you transition from being so diligent and angry into where you are now as a values-aligned coach and helping other people? And how do you help them find that balance? And how did you?
I transitioned in the hardest possible way, which you hinted at in the introduction. And I'd love to think that I would have got there on my own, that maybe I would have sat down and had a conversation with myself and said, hey, how's this current approach working for you? Like the angst and the friction and the frustration in your relationships with friends, relatives, and clients, how's that going to look in another 12 months if nothing changes? I didn't sit down and have that conversation with me. It took my dear mum passing and, to give further history on just how incredibly impactful that was. It starts about 7 years back where mum rang me at just before Christmas. And she said, I was living in Sydney. They were living in Noosa, another state in Australia. And she said, Katie, I don't know what to do about Christmas because you're this vegan animal rights activist. Your father's the anti-vegan and Christmas is all about the food. So I don't know what to do unless you mastermind a vegan feast and sell the family on it. I was like, amazing. I will mastermind that feast. Perhaps you can sell the family on it. Anyway, 6 new recipes. It was an amazing Christmas day. So much deliciousness. Mum was super grateful. And the day before I went home to Sydney, she said to me, Katie, will you watch What the Health with me? Now, Amy, this is a documentary I'd been emotionally blackmailing my parents to watch ever since I went vegan. And surprise, emotional blackmail doesn't work. They hadn't watched it. But Mum sat down with me after the vegan feast. She watched What the Health. As a nurse of 30 years, our broken sick care system, as opposed to a preventative health care system, really resonated with her, as did the plight of the people, not the animals yet, but the people that lived in areas where there were hog farms in America that were suffering because of the impacts of animal agriculture. She said, I'm going to try this plant-based thing for a couple of weeks. Fast forward a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, Mum was now vegan, listening to all my podcasts, watching all the horrific documentaries, really advocating for the lifestyle. It brought us even closer because she still lived with the anti-vegan. It was not easy or good for their relationship. It was great for our relationship. And one Sunday morning, 3.5 years ago now, I got the phone call from my father that I always thought I'd get from my mother because Dad's not that healthy in the way that he thinks or eats. And I always thought I'd get the Katie, it's your father. And I got the Kate, it's your mother. And I'd spoken to Mum at 7 a.m. Sunday morning like I always did, walking along the beaches in Bondi. And she was so fine, so normal. And by 3 p.m. that day, she was gone. And now I know you know how shockingly heartbreaking this is, Amy, and for anyone else listening, that the very worst thing in the world happens. It's so bad that you never even imagine what it might feel like because you just can't even imagine it until you're there. And the shock and the grief in that moment and in the months to come meant that I no longer had the energy to carry around the anger and frustration and even hate to all the non-vegans in my life. I just did not have the emotional capacity to do that. I was just so full of grief and sadness. And also, with Mum, I had no regrets. With Mum, she knew how much I loved and respected her and vice versa. I really had no regrets. Our relationship was amazing. If that had been my father, I would have had regrets because our relationship was not amazing. And a huge part of that came from my judgment and disappointment in him in relation to his lack of acceptance of veganism. And so I just decided, bit by bit, to lead with more love and compassion and deliciousness, which, as it happens, was the vegan that Mum was. So it's a way to honor her and model the way that she led.
Wow, that's really beautiful. What happened to her? Do you mind me asking?
No, of course not. She had a brain aneurysm. So it's completely non-lifestyle related. It's just there. She had just turned 70. One of those things, she'd literally just had her 70th birthday. She was the healthiest in her whole family. She was just so vibrant and she was that bright spark of happy that rocks into a room, So one of the things with grief, and you take on everyone else's grief and shock because they just can't believe it either, because it's the most warm, beautiful person, so vibrant and full of life, and then not.
That just makes no sense. I'm so sorry for your loss. I just can't even imagine. And here she is, like, being a model of health too, and was a nurse for 30 years. I mean, wow. I mean, but she did model that behavior, and how beautiful for you to carry that legacy forward and live in that more accepting style, because we don't know what everyone's here to learn. You know what I mean? And I live in Texas, and so in the middle of Texas. So whether it's eating or politics or whatever, because I'm a liberal, and I've had, to learn that and how to just accept that not everyone's on the same path. And it's really challenging, and just to live by example.
100%. And you keep saying Texas, and it makes me laugh because you're in grilling country. I'm in barbecuing country. That's what we call it here in Australia, And I have one of my dear coaching clients always tells me, Kate, I live in Texas. It's so hard. And I'm like, I rattle off all the amazing vegan advocates that also live in Texas. Like, they're out there, but I'm used to hearing it from him as well. I've never been to Texas, but I know wherever you live, when it feels like you're the minority so far as your values and beliefs and the lifestyle you're looking to lead, like it can feel pretty tough and overwhelming and isolating.
Yeah, it can, but here we are. It's possible. I mean, but I give myself some flexibility too. If I do eat some meat, I've fallen off and gotten back and all that. And I know I feel better when I eat more plant-based. Even mentally, I'm better and fitter. And when I have moments and I fall off, I don't beat myself up. I just go, that's okay. You know what? You don't have to adhere 100% all the time or feel like a failure. Did you have a mental shift around that, because you held yourself to a pretty high standard? And then were you able to adopt more of a flexible mindset just by accepting your dad and maybe accepting yourself?
Yeah. Do you know, when I first became vegan, I got ahimsa tattooed on my wrist, which means compassion to 100% to all living beings, including yourself, because I really needed to remind myself to have compassion for myself. And then the tough learning was, as you hinted at, to have compassion for all the non-vegans around me, right? And I've always been pretty black and white so far as my approach to the nutrition. That's kind of non-negotiable. It's aligned with my top values and beliefs, and it's easy. What was hard was when I decided to lead with more love and compassion, I kind of brainstormed what I needed to stop doing and what I needed to start doing to make that happen. And I actually stopped going to some of the animal rights events that I used to go to. I used to go every single weekend and hang out with other vegan animal rights activists, and that was amazing. And also, it painted a very clear picture of how stark the contrast was between them and everyone else that I loved in my life. And it just made it too hard. So I stopped going to those events. I stopped sharing some of the horrific videos online. And I did feel guilt at stepping back from some of that. I felt guilt that I wasn't flying the little V flag nonstop all the time. And I don't have any guilt over that now because my current approach, like I'm focused on what's most effective, not what feels right and natural in my angry little heart some of the time, So it was a journey though of that. It's okay to step back a bit. It doesn't mean you care any less. It means this is going to take longer than you hope, the vegan world I'm working towards. And so your approach needs to be sustainable. And also there needs to be some joy, right? I need to enjoy the journey on my way there.
100%. You know what? I did activism work once for a different topic. And I had to step back, and I still feel kind of guilty every now and then, or it'll pop up. But you have to live with joy, and you have to pay attention to what you're really focused on. And if it's constantly negative,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'm of this manifestation mindset that what you focus on amplifies. And so if we can focus on that positive, like you were just saying, like, and the joy and really living life, I think that that is very effective.
I
P.S.
completely agree.
Posting stuff doesn't change anybody's mind. Like, I don't think.
I think it would have changed my mind when I was 16 if I'd saw vegan stuff.
Oh, that's true.
But I'm the 1%, right? I
Yeah.
shouldn't try and appeal to myself. I need to get better at appealing to the majority, not me. And that was a slow lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then let's talk about what we can share with people if they're saying, okay, I'm curious. How can I be fit, hit my protein goals, and be practical about this if I want to be more plant-based and more conscious about what I'm eating?
With any big health or life transformation, I always go back to the first step is surrounding clarity. You want to get super clear on your why, what you're looking to achieve, obviously, the goal, the vision in mind, but the why behind it. So the huge emotional intensity, this life that you want to live, how's that going to look? How is that so compelling for you? I think that's super important because no matter what, you're going to start with a bit of motivation. And then a couple of weeks, a couple of months down the track, that motivation is going to wear thin. The other people surrounding you that aren't taking those same actions, it's going to be easier to do what they're doing. So you need that emotionally intense, super clear why. And I would also say my go-to is to align that why, or more so the actions you need to take to achieve that why, with your most important values. So for our listeners, if you haven't elicited your values, think of where you spend your time, money, energy. They're those emotional states that you're naturally drawn to. So for me, they're freedom and integrity. And once I made the connection that rocking around in a fit, strong body was freedom because it gave me the energy and strength to do what I want, I never got lazy with the gym, right? I made that connection and it was locked and loaded. Equally, integrity. If I say I'm vegan for the animals, well, there's no way I'm eating animal products when it's more convenient because I lead with that. There would be a complete lack of integrity to lead as a vegan health coach and to go back on it, right? And so there's no right or wrong with your values. For someone else, it might be love, connection, family, peace. You need to find the connection between the lifestyle changing habits you're going to take and how they are congruent with that number one value or values in your life. Because if they're in conflict, if you're the family person and your number one value is family and getting up early every morning to go to the gym takes away from family time, you're going to resist it. If you see that action is helping you be the fit, strong, healthy mum that's setting the perfect example for your kids, you're going to stick with it. So that's step one, number one, clarity. But from there, we look to build confidence in those actions that you need to take to achieve those goals. So the eating actions, the exercising actions, even the way to communicate effectively with your loved ones who aren't on the same page yet. Like that is a huge component as well. We can dig into the food as much as you like, though. Where works for you to go next?
No, I love this. This is where I want to go next. And I love mindset shifts. And those are so powerful. The ones you just listed are so powerful. And, it just takes like seeing the real payoff. And I feel like so many times we aren't paying attention to how we really feel. And whether it's your eating or what you're doing or the lifestyle you're leading or whatever, and really getting that aligned with who you want to be it's so incredible. And so as we move from kind of food into like, tell me, I know you have an 8-step self-care framework. And so I'd like to maybe dive into some more around self-care and how you coach people.
Yeah. So I do love to get my acronym on. So self-care
Me
is
too.
nice. All right.
Me
Amazing.
too. I went to Tony Robbins not too long ago, and he had the worst acronym I've ever heard in my life. It was something like, oh, it's something terrible. It's like bend wimp or something. And I was like, who did this? That one needs to be axed. Yes.
He could do better. Okay. Self-care is an acronym. S is for self-talk. So the only person you spend 24/7 with is, of course, yourself. The way that you speak to yourself is hugely impactful. And I've spent a lot of time reframing any negative self-talk to be more supportive, the type that you'd share with your mum, your sister, whoever it is. A is, I always go back to this, it's elicit your values and use them as a daily filter for the decision-making process. Because when you're acting in conflict with your highest values, this is the opposite of self-care, right? When you're acting in conflict, you can feel it. You can feel that incongruency. You're at unease. And so get clear on those values. They basically, once you're clear, they eliminate the decision-making process. You just do the do. Whether it's, do I want to eat this or not? Do I want to train or not? Do I want to work with this person or not? It becomes really clear. L is the common one as a personal trainer. That is lock and load the big rocks that keep you happy and healthy. So whatever it is for you, I'm talking about those keystone foundational habits that life is just better. You are just better when you've got them locked and loaded, maybe meditation, journaling, exercise, food prep. Put them into your diary as a non-negotiable appointment with you and prioritize them. F, filter the people you spend time with. And yes, absolutely, I mean those energy vampires that you just feel absolutely exhausted when you've spent time with them. Filter out some of those people. However, Amy, I also mean those friends that you feel absolutely amazing when you've spent time with them. I'm suggesting it's a form of self-care to filter in more time with those individuals. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I interviewed Lauren LaHave. She actually works with Tony Robbins, but after she is with someone, she always writes down how she feels and like takes note of how she feels. I thought that was such a cool habit, you know?
Yeah, I love that. That's super good. C, I'm giving our listeners quite a lot of things to do. So C is create a not to do list. I want you to buy yourself some time and evict some of those things that just eat our energy, right? So create that not to do list. A,
what does that look like for you? What does a not to do list to look like for you?
It's the stuff that you resent, right? The things that I'm too good at saying no now, probably to my detriment. I'm really good at saying no. But it's those things you say yes to that you say yes to because they're in the future. And then as soon as they come close, you resent them. Or it's the scrolling that you never feel good after. I'll scroll vegan recipes on TikTok and actually feel good. But there's other scrolling that doesn't feel good, right? Yeah. So it's actually for me, it's also those conversations that you get into that you know the other person's just up for a bad faith debate, that it's not a genuine conversation. You both feel rubbish after it. It's not a win for anyone. They're on my not to do list now.
Nice.
I resisted this for years. Most impactful habit. A is a 24-hour digital detox. And I try really hard to do this once a weekend from about lunchtime on Saturday to lunchtime on Sunday. No firm rules, but whatever helps you come back fresh and focused and full of energy for the week to come.
Wow. Nice.
R is probably my favorite. R is realistic expectations for yourself and the people you love. Sometimes we need to lower the bar to raise our chance of success. You know, from NLP, we know everyone has a different map of the world. So they have different goals, values, beliefs, experiences, more so what they make each of these things mean. So if I'm expecting someone, my dad, to make the same choice as me after watching a particular video or article, A, he doesn't watch it, but B, if I had that expectation, like it's just unrealistic, right? I'm setting myself up for failure. And it's the same with ourselves, Amy. When you step back from activism a bit, when I did, you know, that it's just being kinder and more realistic for ourselves long term. E, last one. Some of these things are a little bit involved. So E is just easy 5-minute quick fixes. If you're just feeling a bit rubbish and you want a quick pick me up, 5 minutes sitting in the sun, walking around the block, calling someone you love, whatever it is, just something easy and simple and cheap as a form of self-care.
Ain't that the truth? I mean, we make it so much more complicated in so many ways, and it can be as simple as 5 minutes just walking around or sitting outside. You're
100%.
like, "Oh, yeah," and putting down our phone. I really have, like, an inner voice now that's like, "Just put it down. Just shut it off."
Good.
And, like, I will, and then I'm like, I feel so much better, and I'm like, it's almost a weird, jarring, like, "Oh, yeah, I'm back in reality." Like, rather than this just takeover that we experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Have you worked with your clients to encourage them to do the digital detox, and are they doing it, and how do they feel?
It's funny because most often I get feedback of, oh, I should do that. Not that many actually are, but I'm definitely modeling it because with one of my programs, it includes daily WhatsApp support. And so every single Saturday at around 12 my time, I'll send a last WhatsApp message to them and it'll be like, woohoo, off to do my 24-hour digital detox. See you in 24, whatever it is. So definitely nearly everyone says I should. Not so many people are there yet, which is funny because you only need to do one to see the huge benefit. I remember the first one I did November last year and I was like, my goodness, why did it take me so long to try this thing? Like it's not hard or restrictive. It's just all benefit basically.
Mhm, mhm. And I guess you could still use your phone, like, if you need have a call coming in or something like that, like, my kids could call me, right?
No rules. It's exactly what works for you. My issue isn't spending too much time with friends. My issue is spending too much time working, right? So
Ah,
absolutely. I can call and SMS my friends. I can even listen to podcasts while I'm doing food prep, but I'm not going to be checking my email or my WhatsApp for work or any of that sort of thing.
oh, good, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I like this, that you
Yeah.
can make your own rules
Of
around it. Yeah,
course.
because my partner, he'll, like, check his email all of a sudden at night, or we'll be doing something together, and I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" It's just this
100%.
habit that we need that,
Yes.
like, that little dopamine hit, and it helps reset, I think, those chemicals, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think having the 24-hour break once a week or whatever it is, 16 hours, whatever works for you, it does make you more conscious during the week when you're just reaching for that thing. It makes you more, once you have a firm break, you are more aware of how addicted you are to that thing and how it doesn't make you feel great.
Yeah, totally. So, how long have you been practicing all this and coaching others?
So the coaching component, I guess coaching is a part of personal training, and that's been
I would think
19
so.
years, right? I've
Yeah.
always been, as the personal trainer, I kind of decided before my first day who I wanted to be as a trainer, and I wanted to be the most focused and positive trainer in the gym because it's a very visual profession. Yes, you have to look the part, but everyone else's clients are watching your energy as well. So very fast, I became all about the mindset. And that was something I always wanted to lead with and coach my clients with. So, 19 years, all of that. And then I retired from personal training eventually just earlier this year. So literally I am 100% online coaching. vegans or vegans at heart, just of this year.
How does that feel?
Freeing.
Really? I bet.
I had the most amazing clients, particularly when I lived in Sydney. That was the first 18 years of my personal training career. They were either mentors or friends, and they were amazing, and they made their nutrition more plant-based than it had ever been. However, none of them were exclusively vegan, and all of the changes they made were aligned with their health, not the animals. And that's fine, and I'm grateful for the impact I had. However, I would always censor myself. I had to always be careful of how I framed conversations around nutrition so as not to be insulting because I was the professional. They were paying me for my time. Whereas now I only spend time with individuals who are either vegan and want to be healthier. You know, they're struggling with their weight or energy or whatever it may be, or they're vegan at heart, their ethics are aligned with it, their daily actions aren't quite there yet. And so we are completely on the same page, and it has brought back such an energy for one-on-one coaching that I thought I was burnt out from. I was just burnt out from having to censor myself, and now I'm just 100% natural, aligned me, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing. And so it's amazing.
That's very interesting. What advice would you tell someone if they're feeling like the way you described, like they're censoring themselves and they're scared to take that next step?
I don't think there's one answer for that. I think it's a weighing up of of how much it's costing you, because, you know, I had easy, great, reliable money and clients that referred. I was at capacity all the time, no drama, never had to think about that. However, it's a weighing up of that financial absolute security. And as I shared, I loved my clients. They were friends. However, there's a period of time where the energy it's costing you is too much. And the older I've gotten, maybe after mum dying, I'm 48 now. Like, it's not just about being fit and strong, and I'm pretty good at prioritizing my time. Like, I'm amazing at prioritizing my time. I've had to get better at prioritizing my energy because it's not quite as limitless as what it was in my 20s, right? So if there's an action that is really, really draining and it's costing me too much and it's costing me too much joy, then that's less acceptable than what it was. Maybe it's perimenopause. Maybe it's that, it's probably a combination of things. But for the person listening, my most impactful habit ever was journaling. And I started it last year because I was seeking calm and clarity. And each night I'd start a blank sheet of paper with those two words, and then I'd just write, no rules. And I didn't know how I was going to get to calm and clarity. And the funny thing was, journaling was how I got to calm and clarity, because it creates space without everything else coming in for you to work through your own thoughts. And so if someone's facing a huge life decision like that, I would say journaling is a good, important first step to get really clear on where your heart is and what you want to be doing, and, you know, the pros and cons of any huge decision.
Mm-hmm. Part of that eliciting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
Very, very beautiful. Um, you know, there was probably, it is, I think a lot comes with age too. Like, as women too, we get over doing anything that isn't really truly what we want to be doing, right? And so
100%.
congratulations on stepping away from something that was taxing your energy in a way that wasn't serving you. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you had experience. I too also think that there's something about losing a parent that makes you live your life a little bit differently. I've lost both of my parents, and I made major shifts each time. And I feel like it's not even exactly the grief, but there's something that just frees you in a different way to live your life. Maybe we see our own mortality. I don't know. But I think that there's something in there that makes you change.
I think you're right. Like, risk is different because you survive the worst possible thing, like the hardest thing that you can't even imagine happens, and you're still here and you're still going on, albeit very differently with huge grief. And so it makes you reassess the downside of anything because you've already survived the worst, right? So, for me, the downside of any scary decision it's not as bad and scary anymore because the worst has happened. So, if you're dissatisfied right now, let's give it a red hot shot at making things better and deal with the consequences.
Absolutely. So, and then you also took your grief and moved it into something that really honors your mother, which I think is just magnificent. So there are ways to mindset shift around that, right? Like, and
100%.
shift. And you're a queen of a mindset shift, just like me. I'm so into that. I saw that a little bit of a gear shift too. I saw that you talk about turning overwhelm or reframing overwhelm with a mindset shift. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this one's an acronym as well. We probably don't need to go through the whole acronym. However, step one is the most important. And I will share, I used to do overwhelm really, really well, right? And overwhelm is basically just thinking of all the things with a special emphasis on those things that are not within your control. So
Mhm.
the most important step, the O in overwhelm, is to only focus on what's within your control, and you can start that with a brain dump. I do that whenever I need it, but at least once a month where you get a huge big A3 sheet of paper and all of that stuff that is swimming around in your head, you just dump it down on paper. It looks so much less than what it felt like when it's in your head, right? And then you just cross out everything that is not within your control that's on that piece of paper. And everything that is within your control, some of those items you're still going to want to ditch. Some of those items you're going to want to delegate. And then the others are do, and you choose the one next most important do. And the solution to overwhelm, really, apart from focusing on what is within your control, is to take that next one most aligned action. If you're taking action, you're really not feeling overwhelmed. You're not marinating in all the could be, should be's. So that's a start.
Oh, I think that's such good advice. Ditch, delegate, do. I
Mm-hmm.
love that too. And I have done that when I was overwhelmed by fear once around I don't even know what. I was having an anxiety or something. And I ran across it just the other day and I wrote Amy's big fear list and I just wrote down my fears and I remember thinking this isn't as much as I thought it was gonna be. Like, when you're holding it in, it's so
Yeah,
much more debilitating than taking a look at it and removing yourself just a little bit.
100%. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, how have you shifted in your own life now that you are living more aligned with your own clarity and values? How is that feeling? Because it's fairly recent. And so, how is that? I mean, you mentioned you feel free, but I guess I'm thinking like, how have you noticed it embody in your own physicality, perhaps, or functionality?
It's funny. Self-belief and backing yourself is a theme that is constant in my story. I shared early days that, I was a debilitatingly shy teenager. We used to go on skiing trips, just dad and I. Mum hated skiing. And I was like a teenager, and dad would play Brian Tracy, How to Be More Confident cassettes. That's how long ago it was, in the car for the whole 3-hour drive, like torture, because I was that shy, right? And
Oh.
so I joined the gym, as I said, to transform my body and also my confidence. So that was first level of Kate stepping up and having more confidence. This was more about the way my body looked and how I moved in the world. Next step was in my early 30s when I brought into the business from hell, which was a gym franchise. And again, I was great in the gym, but probably not great and didn't do my due diligence as a business owner and leader. And through that hideous money hemorrhaging nightmare of a business,
Oh, no.
I learned to back myself. I learned all the boys in the franchise that just were so confident. it was a self-belief that actually wasn't warranted most of the time. And getting out of that business taught me that I'm the one that I can rely on, right? You don't know what's coming today, tomorrow, next month, or next year. You can cultivate a certainty of self that you don't have in circumstances or other people. So that was the next step in my self-belief. And I would say most recently, this past year or so, again, to back myself to have a vision, have a business and a vision that are completely aligned. No excuses. This is 100% my heart. Like, other people mightn't agree with it, and that's totally cool as long as I communicate it with compassion and love. There is just, as you said, a freedom, a lightness similar to the lightness that I experienced when I took animals off my plate completely. That burden that you're carrying maybe unconsciously, again, that's been lifted for me. It's a lightness and a congruency, which actually there was probably energy wasted carrying that around. I have a lot more energy again now for what I'm doing as a woman that's pushing 50, which is just really like motivating to experience.
That's beautifully said. Absolutely. It really is. And thank you for sharing all that. Wow.
Of
And it's
course.
so funny how we can look back at those experiences, right? And find those mindset shifts around those too, right? And like find gratitude or find what we learned and really change that into something that serves us and teaches us and makes us a better person, right?
100%. I was just writing about failure earlier this week, yesterday, and I think everyone says, it's not failure, it's feedback. But I think there is such a freedom in having a huge failure in life, which my
Yeah.
first business was, because it's the same as the worst death, I guess. The very worst thing happens and you keep going and you're like, okay, I can survive this. Like, I can just keep
Yeah.
going. I pick myself up and I go on again.
Yeah, you absolutely. You're like, I didn't die. And, everyone doesn't care as much as I thought they were going
It's
to.
not as embarrassing as I thought because no
Yeah.
one's watching anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, that's really powerful. Tell me what a typical day looks like for you. Like, what are some of your non-negotiables in the morning? I guess journaling, you said at night,
Mhm.
and which I like. I've only journaled really during the day, but I'm wondering if I just brain dumped a little bit at night, how that would serve me. I should probably start. But anyway, I'd love to hear some of your routines.
Yeah, I think journaling in the evening is a way to kind of just get that stuff out of your mind before a good night's sleep. I always think
Yeah.
like your ideal tomorrow starts the day before. So I always plan my day to come the night before with tasks by order of priority and time allotted next to each. So never I will start this task at this time. I used to do that. And then life jumps in your way and you get really frustrated. But blocks of time, how much I want to spend next to this is my number one task and all of that. However, I get up really early, 4 a.m. at the moment. It was 3 a.m. for too long a period of time this year. And then I just told myself to calm down. I have a really easy
What
high
time did you
protein.
go to bed? Wait, what
Yeah,
time did you go to
really
bed and how
early,
much sleep?
like 7 o'clock. I get enough sleep. It gets dark here
Amazing.
early though. So I get
Yeah,
up early. I like
amazing.
to not rush in the morning. I think, that sets the tone. Like you never hit snooze, but also you don't start the day rushing. Good fuel, good coffee, spend some time with the fur babies, the cats. And I get into work. I advise my clients, whatever is the number one priority in your life right now, that should get the most disciplined period of time. For some people who are struggling to work out, maybe you get your workout done first thing. Workout's locked and loaded for me. So that actually happens when I need a break from business. When my brain's starting to get a bit fuzzy, that's when I get to go to the gym or go for a walk. And I sprinkle little treats throughout my day now. This is part of my learning last year to enjoy the journey. It can't just all be about being efficient and effective and maximizing my time. I want to maximize my joy as well. So whether that's journaling, which I love, or walking along the river, or whatever it may be in a non-rushed, I keep saying that, but I just used to maximize every second. And part of my learning has, those impromptu little conversations. If they happen, that's a good thing. It's not time away from work. It's a good thing communicating with another human. So
it is, and we can rush through those and savoring that moment is really. I did that just last night. I was at Home Depot, which is like our hardware big store. Yeah, and you know what? I took the time with the checkout person, and I was like, wow, I'm like not rushing, and it just felt really good.
It feels human, right? Like just to have
human.
that human level, normal interaction. My evening routine has had an overhaul because that was the one area I was letting myself down. So, now the mobile phone goes on airplane mode and I'll read a book for pleasure for 10 to 30 minutes and no scrolling in bed. That was my downfall previously.
It's a tough one.
But
Real
it
tough.
is so worth when you evict that device from your bed. That was a huge win just this year.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
a
you.
big one. Yeah. And, when you think about it, like what you said about it's human, isn't that the goal, right? To live with more joy. Isn't that really where we're trying to get? Because I think we get caught up in all these other things so many times that we lose sight of the actual thing, which is to feel good and enjoy the moment and live happily, That is the goal, right?
100%. And that's another one of the things in relation to my leading with compassion as a vegan journey. I try really hard now to focus on what I have in common with other people because we have so much more in common than not. And, it's the same as when you're walking along. I live near a river. When I'm walking along the river on a really beautiful day and everyone's smiling at each other, or when you're walking along the river and you're the only crazy ones out there because it's a really horrific day and you're still smiling at each other like we're the crazy ones, we have so much in common. And that's something I really do school myself to focus on a lot more.
Oh, that's very interesting. I like that a lot. We really can use that because we tend to think about the things that are different. And I know you spent a lot of time doing that, right?
100%.
And that seems like something that could benefit us in other ways too. Like I wonder about comparison or something like that. Is that something that would help you break free of comparison, or how would you? What other
of course it would.
things?
Of course it would. I can think of, I don't know why this example came to mind, but at my old gym in Sydney, one of the other trainers who I loved, she had this new client. It was a returning client. And this lady was the most beautiful, fit, successful, amazing clothes, always looked amazing. And the temptation, and I saw my other clients do it in the way that they looked at her, the temptation was almost to be like, oof, well, you've got life easy, haven't you, with your perfect little body and perfect little face and, these holidays that you go on. And she was always really lovely to me and vice versa. And a few weeks into knowing her, she was talking about the book that she had just written. And I was interested because I'd just written a book as well. And I asked her what it was about. And it was about her father being murdered in South Africa where she grew up when she was a teenager. And this was a couple of years after my mum had died at 70 from a brain aneurysm. And it was an immediate shift on you have no idea what's happening for that other person that you're judging, what she had grown up with and been through to live the life that she's living now. We have no idea.
No, we really don't. You really don't know what anybody's going through. And we just can operate more with the assumption like everybody's going through something, have some compassion, just like we are, everything's got its own, you're just playing the hand you're dealt a lot of times too. And
100%.
Yeah, no, that's really powerful to remember. And a great lesson, always.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned your book that you'd written. Can I ask you about that?
Oh, I'd love you to ask me about that. The Plant
Great.
Positive Journal version 2 is out now. And, it started with my dear mum as well. Many, many years ago, my mum gave me a gratitude diary for Christmas. And it was the most beautiful book with artwork and quotes. And I used it to plan my day to come the night before. I've been doing that for many, many years. And I'd scribble all over this thing. And I'd never read the monthly writings because they were about the moon and the stars, and that wasn't my vibe at that point in time. I did think, what if those monthly and weekly writings and quotes, what if they were all about living a fit, strong, healthy, plant-based lifestyle? And I shared recipes and quotes and all of that. And so that's the Plant Positive Journal. I was creating the first one when Mum sadly died. It's got some of her recipes in it though. And so they're a tribute to her. And, it's my little vegan Trojan horse, right? That I post all around the world. And, it's there to plant these delicious, gentle little seeds, whether it's there just for the individual that wants a beautiful tool to plan their day to come, or whether it's for the individual that's looking to know how to adopt a healthy plant-based lifestyle. I share all the mindset tips and strategies that I've learned over the past couple of decades as a health coach. And that's the journal, Venture of the Heart.
Oh, I need it. I need to get one. So it's available to everyone, right? I can get it in America, right?
You can. I post the majority of them to the US because it's such a huge market. Not everywhere. There's a PDF version, but US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand is mostly where I post to.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, good. I'm excited. That link will be in the show notes as well for anybody that wants to order it. And of course, they can go to your website or however they'd like to order that. And what did we miss today? Was there anything on your heart or mind that you really wanted to mention today, or anything that's even coming back up for you that you want to reiterate before we go?
You are a true professional, Amy. I don't know that we missed anything. I would probably just touch on the power of community, because this was something I was late to understand. With any big lifestyle change, as you and I hinted at, it can feel really isolating, and it doesn't need to. And probably the thing that I am most passionate about now, I say that with everything I do, which I think is a happy problem. But my free plant positive community on the school platform is a space for vegans and the plant curious. And I want these groups of individuals to be able to interact together with love and support and compassion. It's kind of the opposite of social media, which can be pretty hateful and judgy and full of ads. So whether people are interested in that free community or just whatever you're struggling with in life, to seek out that community that understands you and supports you, where you can, as we discussed today, where you don't have to censor yourself. You can just speak your heart, and those people in that community get you. That is just such a nourishing, energy, joy-giving experience. So that's a final recommendation.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. And how can everyone find you and work with you? Of course, it will be in the show notes, but I would love it if you would state it all here too, so they can hear it.
Thank you. The website's the best place. So that is strongbodygreenplanet.com. You'll find the Healthification Podcast, 900 plus episodes. You'll find the Plant Positive Journal and everything else via strongbodygreenplanet.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Kate. It was wonderful to connect with you and to hear from you today. I really enjoyed it. We're very aligned on a lot of things. And so anyway, thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to put into practice some things and, of course, order the journal. So thank you.
Amy, I'm here for you. This has been such a blast, so much fun. And a huge joy. Thank you so much.
So thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed talking about that. I hope you weren't put off by any of the vegan stuff, because it's just interesting to explore. And a lot of people, I guess I say that because a lot of people are put off by it. And I don't know. I'm no stranger to people thinking I'm crazy for the choices that I make, like people questioning the things that I choose. If you are wondering about the treatment of animals, I would recommend the book Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. It is a real slap in the face about the meat industry and what we're actually doing. And it's really, oof, but there has been a movement toward more humane killing and farm raised and things like that. So, I have just a really, really tender heart to animals. And so that's one of my reasons. Yeah, I don't know. But that's always been me. And you know what? My dad was a hunter. And I mean, I grew up with him hunting, grew up with him shooting deer or whatever, and we would eat that. And so it's been a weird thing for me to navigate. So anyway, you do you. You know what? Of course. Of course you do you, right? I do me. It's all good. And what it boils down to is loving the choices that you make in your life and making sure that they align for you. That's really what it's about. But there's also a lot of health benefits. I have interviewed doctors on this program who are vegans and eat really super plant-based. So, yeah, so I don't know. I'm kind of rambling about it now, but thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I love you so much. Please follow the show. Follow us on YouTube if you haven't already. We are building there. My hair, of course, my extensions are by the Collective ATX. I'll be getting new ones for the wedding. Ooh, I'm so excited. And all new extensions. And I've been wearing them kind of wavy these days. They behave very well. Connect with me. Sign up for the newsletter if you haven't yet. It's at amyedwards.info, amyedwards.com. You can sign up there. You can get news every week about what's going on with the show, and you can reply to those directly to me, or you can hit me up on social media on Instagram at RealAmyEdwards, or my TikTok is The Magic Babe, but I'm not quite there as much. All right. All that said, I guess now we're actually ending. So thank you again for being here. I love you so much. Keep shining bright. Till next time. Whoa. Thank you so much for being here. Please rate, review, and follow us. And we'd love to hear your feedback. Keep shining bright.